be super annoying for teaching.
Yeah, you can turn it off.
You can turn it
Okay.
off. However,
right,
it is
go.
pretty nice whenever a kid like drops out,
Yeah.
and that, or if someone's in the waiting room and when you're trying to do some work.
Okay,
it
admit
pings, and then
all.
you're like, oh, someone's there. There we go.
Here we go. Welcome, everybody. We are just going to get started here in just 1 minute. All right, MaryAlison, I think you are all set.
Alrighty. Okay. Here we go. So if you want to grab your own copy of this, you can use the bit.ly link at the bottom. It will also go in the chat, so you can copy it from the chat as well. So this is intermediate level Google Classroom. So hopefully if you are here, you've already been using Google Classroom a little bit and you're ready to try to understand and use it a little bit more. My name is MaryAlison Weintraub. I am a classroom teacher, like most of you probably are. If you want to get in touch with me after presentation, you have questions, want to connect on Twitter, there is my contact info. I work in Baldwin Park Unified, which is in LA County. My work email is super restrictive and almost everything goes to spam, so it's not very useful to share that one. Right now I teach 5th grade, but the information here will work regardless of what grade you teach. So we'll start with some general information. If it's helpful to you to toggle back and forth between tabs, you can look at your Google Classroom while we go. If you have questions and you put them in the chat, Heather will help me out with questions or ask me, or we will do questions at the end as well. So Google likes tiny icons. If you haven't figured this out yet, they all do something. The one that you'll see the most is the arrow or the 3 little dots, and they add a drop-down menu. And the drop-down menu has some sort of choices for you for posting and scheduling, for choosing the students, for choosing the classes. The question mark in the bottom left corner, if you've never used that, is to send feedback directly to Google. So if you're complaining about some feature that you hate or wish existed to your coworkers every day, send feedback to Google, because the more people that tell them that they need something or that something is terrible, the more likely they are to maybe one day change it. So one of the features that I will be talking about today is the to-do list and the to-review list. And a couple of years ago, Google actually got rid of those. And then based on feedback, they brought them back a few months later. So feedback can sometimes make a difference. And then you'll also sometimes see a tiny little trash can, which is your little delete button. So some basics about Google. There are a ton of shortcuts that are either a little image or a word that lead directly to something or a page or a folder. And if you want to save yourself some time, you can use some of those. So there's shortcuts now. Some of these are brand new as of August, but there are shortcuts to get to your gradebook, to the drive for your class, to the individual assignment folders for each assignment within your drive, to get to your Google Calendar for your class. Click on the assignment titles to go directly to them from the upcoming work. And then there's now shortcuts for the to-do and to-review lists that did not previously exist. So if you noticed a slight change in August, That's because August 11th, they announced some updates, and it always takes Google a couple weeks to roll those out to all the users. Email options. You can adjust your notifications. So if you don't want an email every time a student submits late work or resubmits work, you can adjust them. And I'm going to pull up my Google Classroom in just a minute to show you how to do that. If you are a co-teacher on a class, for example, you, like me, are a 5th grade teacher, but you're also a teacher in the other 5th grade teachers' classes, but you don't want all the emails for those classes, you can turn off the notifications for the other classes. If you're a high school English teacher and everybody is on the classes for all of the English department as a teacher, you can turn off the emails so that you're not getting notifications on the classes that you're not responsible for, which will save you a lot of headache because we already get a ton of emails every day to deal with. Icon nicknames. This is just something silly and fun. Everybody knows about the 3 dots that give you options, the 3 lines in the top left corner, and the 9 squares. The 9 squares have a pretty universal nickname, which is the waffle, and they're really 9 circles now, but squares make a better waffle, so people still are saying waffle. The 3 lines is the menu. A lot of people call it the hamburger. I prefer pancakes, but whatever you want to call it, it helps to give it, in my opinion, students like things like that. It makes them wake up. You know, you say pancakes or hamburger and they're paying attention. And the 3 dots, I've heard a ton of names for those, sushi or donut holes. My preference is snowman, and if it's the 3 vertical dots, it's a snowman, and if it's the 3 horizontal dots, then it's the melted snowman, and it's whatever you want to call it. I've heard some people also say ants on a log, so anything cute will work. One thing that is new, if you just started school, you might have noticed this. When you add students to your class, previously you could either manually invite them with their emails or give them the code, but there's also now an invite link. So you can copy that link and send it by email or Dojo or Reminder through a school message. And then in the spring, they brought out the Meet link being on your banner. If you do not use Google Meet for your streaming platform for live classes, you can disable that so that students don't have access to it. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to Google Classroom because the most important thing from all of this is probably the email options. So I'm going to go ahead and show you my classroom. So click on the pancakes in the top left or the menu. This is like the hidden settings. So you scroll all the way to the bottom to the settings here. It's the same settings icon as the one that you see in the top right corner, but the options are different. So again, you click on the menu top left and click on settings. And then you have email notifications. Obviously you want to keep your email notifications on, but you can choose which email notifications you get. So you'll notice that you can choose if you're getting emails for your comments. You can choose for the classes you're enrolled in as a student what you get as emails and the classes that you teach. But then way down here at the bottom, here's your tiny arrow that gives you more choices. So click class notifications and click on that little arrow. And then you have all the classes that you are a teacher in listed here. So for example, our 5th and 6th grade team has shared ELD and enrichment classes. So I don't want to get the emails from all the other teachers. This class was made a couple days ago. I already turned the notifications off. This class was just made. I don't want to get those notifications either, so I can go ahead and turn them off. This teacher that is listed as the main teacher who created the class is still going to get the emails, even if you turn them off for yourself. Other teachers that are listed as teachers for that class will also still get the emails. The only person that you're turning it off for is yourself. Okay. All right, back to the presentation slides. So the to-do list and the to-review list, they used to both be called the to-do list, and now they have different names. So for students, it's called the to-do. For teachers, it is called the to-review. Okay, you can find them two ways: under the menu, which is your pancakes in the top left corner, or on your main classes page, and that is brand new as of August, and it was rolled out to you at some point in the last couple weeks. If you don't have it, hopefully you have it in the next week or two. It usually takes Google 3 to 4 weeks to get stuff rolled out to everybody. So on your to-do list, if you are a student in a class, you have 3 options, or 3 columns basically. You have assigned, which is all the work that's assigned to you; missing, which is any work that's missing that you haven't submitted; and done. So that's all the work that you've turned in, that's been graded. And this is automatically changed. So if I have something assigned to me as a student and I turn it in, it's automatically going to move to the done column. If I have something assigned to me as a student that's due today and I don't do it tomorrow, it will automatically be listed under missing. As a student, you don't make any changes to that. It just automatically changes. The to review list shows what you have to review as a teacher. So if you're somebody that loves sticky notes or to-do lists, this will be your digital lifesaver with Google Classroom. I love the to-do list. It's still hard for me to call it the to review because that name literally just changed in June, I think. And in my head, it's still the to-do list. On paper, we still call it a to-do list. But just know that in Google for a teacher, it is to review. So you have the option of viewing all your classes at once, and that's the auto setting. Or once you go to your to review, you can click on, again, tiny arrow, click on that, and it will give you the option of choosing just one of your classes. So as an elementary teacher, I have one class only this year, decided that was the best way to organize it with distance learning. And so everything will just be listed under that one class, except for my ELD and intervention items. But if you're a secondary teacher and you have multiple class periods, you can look at everything at once, or you can choose just one period at a time to look at their work, depending on what works better for you in terms of checking and grading. So this gives you the status at a glance of the student's assignments. So you'll see the number for that assignment of graded work that you've already graded. You'll see the number of students who've turned in their work and the number of students you've assigned it to but haven't turned it in yet. So if you have not graded anything for that assignment yet, there won't be a graded spot listed. You won't see the word graded come up with a number until you've graded at least one of the assignments. And one of the nice things about Google is that everything, it turns into a shortcut or a link. So if you click on those numbers, you can go directly to the assignment. So if you're like me as a teacher, you always have way too many tabs open. So you can have your Google Classroom to review page up in one tab, and then you can click on the number sign for the assignment and open it in another tab. So you click on Control and the number to open in a new tab, or Command if you are a Mac user, pops it open in another tab so that you can look at both things at once. When you are finished with that assignment, say that you have graded all of them. If there are still a few people it's assigned to, but they haven't turned it in on time, you can still move it to reviewed if you want to, especially if you have your email notifications on, because you'll get an email if a student turns it in late. So think of moving it to the reviewed page as crossing it off your paper to-do list, right? So you have a list of things that you're working on, and when you're done, you move it to reviewed. So you click on the 3 little dots, your snowman, and it moves it to reviewed. It doesn't disappear. It's still in your Google Classroom in the same place, but on your digital to-do list or to review, you've moved it from the items you still need to look at on to review to the page that is reviewed. You've already figured out what you need to do and checked those assignments. So you've kind of crossed them off your list. Okay. Heather, are there any questions we should look at so far? You're muted.
Just saw that. Story of my day. Okay, there is not, but however, Paul did put in a Chrome extension link in there that's really useful for one tab.
Okay, yes.
Rita is asking, what is one tab? So you want to give a quick little explanation on that? I know it's a long explanation, but let's give the 30-second one on that. Do you want to take care of that, MaryAlison?
So if you are a tab fiend, one tab is a really great way to save your tabs for later, because then you can click on and open up all the tabs that you had open. You can sort of, it's like bookmarking them all at once. Is that a good short answer? All right.
It is. Thank you.
Anything else before we move on? All right. Okay. So the student selector, if you are moving to hybrid soon and you're going to be in the classroom, you can use this. If you are online, but you have all sorts of screens in front of you, you can still use your phone to do this from home or from your classroom where you're teaching. So the student selector is only available on the mobile app. It's available both on iPhone and Android. This is the image of how it looks on my iPhone, but it basically is the same on an Android device as well. So you open up your Google Classroom app on your phone, and it does also work on a tablet. So any mobile app, mobile device. So you open up the mobile app and you click on the People tab on the bottom. If you've never used the Google Classroom app, the icons for the different pages or tabs are at the bottom. So if you're used to seeing the stream, classwork, people, and grades at the top, keep in mind that in the app, they're on the bottom. And in the app, there's only 3. There's no grades tab. So you click on the People tab, and then there's 4 squares at the top right. They're sort of like wonky squares, some squares and some diamonds, kind of. And then it opens up this student selector. So it's sort of hidden. You have to have known about it, basically, or played around. And you have 3 choices. So you can call on a student with this, and then they answer, and you click the next button. You call on them, they're not ready, so you're going to give them wait time. So you click call later, it shuffles them back into the stack. Or they're absent that day, so you click on absent, so it's not going to pull their name up again. And then that tracker up at the top for those numbers will actually move the names. So if I were to click on that 24, it would list all the students in my class I had not yet picked. Once I have called on a student and clicked next, they move to the picked column. And so if I clicked on that number, once I had some students that I called on, it would show who I'd picked already. And again, if I'd marked any students absent, same thing, that 0 would turn into a different number, and the students that were absent would be listed there. And when I'm ready to start all over, I can click the reset button. So if you are used to using cards or popsicle sticks or anything else, this is a quick digital student picker. If you need a way to fairly call on students and not have to touch a lot of things if you are back in your classroom, this is great because you probably already have your phone in your pocket. If you have admin that are walking in and doing any sort of observation when you're back in the classroom using this, you can always show them, show them your phone, say, look, I promise it's academic, if you're wary about using your phone in the classroom, or show it to them in advance. But this is super handy. It's really easy. It's a lot easier for me than pulling up a website separately. So I always like to share this with people. Let's talk about setting up assignments, some things that we can do besides just assigning things. So all of your assignments have a direct URL. So if you haven't discovered this yet, on any assignment, as well as the question post or the material post in your classwork tab, you can click on the 3 dots to copy that URL. So with virtual teaching, this is really, really handy because you can copy the link and paste it directly in the chat of your WebEx, your Zoom, your Google Meet, whatever it is you're using. And then instead of telling them, open up your Google Classroom, go to the classwork page, scroll to this topic, find the assignment, you've already put the link in the chat. It goes directly to that assignment page or the material page, whatever it is that you're sending them to, and it saves a lot of time. You can also use that direct URL if you're creating like assignment slides for the week, listing what they have to do, and you can link directly to the assignments. One important caveat though is that the URL does not exist until the assignment is live. So if you have your stuff scheduled, you know, to post at 8 a.m. on Monday, or with secondary at the time the class starts at 1:10 p.m. on Tuesday and 1:10 on Thursday, your links won't exist until your assignments are live. So just be aware of that. So if you're publishing, you know, agenda slides or homework slides or independent work slides for the week, you can't put the link to it until the assignment has posted. Also very important is that the link only works for students that are enrolled in your class. So if you send that link to a parent, it's not going to work, okay? It only works for the students. So if you send it to a parent to share something with them, they would then have to have their student log in when they click on the link, because it's going to tell them that they don't have access.
MaryAlison, can I interrupt you for a moment?
Go ahead.
So I have a couple questions. Can you explain again how you get the student selector?
Okay, so me.
And also you might want to answer this at the same time. Do you mark them absent before you click them?
All right, so I'm gonna unshare so I can pull up and hold up my phone to the screen. So hopefully you'll be able to see this clearly. So here's my Google Classroom app. You choose a class. I need to try to find my sample class so I don't show you my real student names. Okay, so let's see if it'll work with the light. Sort of. All right, so at the bottom you can see the options there. So you would click on the people button at the bottom of your app. Okay, so I'm gonna click on people.
As a reminder, if you change to speaker view, you can see her larger.
Oh, yes, it'll make my face really big and my phone really big. Okay, so once I've clicked on people for that class, in the top, let's see if I move it right, in the top corner there, it's the top right corner, you can see the little squares. And so 3 of them actually look like squares and one sort of a diamond. It's a little bit wonky. So then you click on that. Okay, if you've never used it before, it will look like this, welcome, and it'll tell you to start. So you press the start button. Okay, and then this is a fake class that I had a couple coworkers join. So when I did presentations, I wasn't showing my real students' names. So you can see at the top, I only have 2 students enrolled, but it says 2 not picked because I haven't called on them. Okay, and then I have my fake student, my coworker down there, and I have the call later option.
Went back. Thanks.
Or the absent option, or the next option. So if my fake student, Miss Wynn, is there and she answers my question, I can click on next right here at the bottom. Okay, and now my numbers at the top, the not picked has changed to 1 because I called on her, and now she's listed under 1. So if I click the 1 for picked, it will show me who I have not picked and who I have picked. It'll list it for you there. And then you just X out to go back to your main page. Okay, and then if you click on absent, right, it will put them under absent. So if I click the absent number now, it would show you that I have marked that student as absent. If you have finished with all of your students, you would click start again. Okay, it's automatic if you go through all your students, and I only have 2 since this is my fake class. Okay, so now here's my class. Right? If I think that Miss Wynn is not ready and I click call later, it still shows 2 students not picked. It just reshuffles them in. Obviously with 2 students, she'd come up very quickly, but it reshuffles them back in. And then if you're in the middle of it, if I've called on a student and I have 1 picked and 1 not picked, or in a bigger class, you know, I've picked 20 and I'm ready to reset it for the next assignment, I would click reset here in the top corner. Okay, and then it asks me reset session. All students will be marked as not picked, and then just like everything else, Google's double checking that you really want to do that. So you either cancel or reset, and it starts it over. Okay. All right. Any other questions about the student selector?
Thank you. It doesn't look like it at the moment.
Okay. Do you mark them absent before you click student selector? No, it cannot be your attendance checker. You have to do it one by one. Okay, it would not be a good attendance selector. For attendance, if you don't have a district thing that you're required to use for attendance, I would recommend doing a daily question and just do a yes or no. You know, it could be, are you here? Yes or no? Or it could be, you know, something silly each day. Do you like chocolate ice cream? Yes or no? But you will see the students who answer as well as the students who don't answer. So the students who don't answer are obviously your absent students. Okay.
So,
All right. So Flippity is really cool, but Flippity, you have
is-
to add all the students' names to the Google Sheet and then publish it to the web. So it's a few more steps.
Is student selector only available on the phone?
If you have a tablet, it works on that, but it's not available on the website version.
Okay.
All right. So go back.
Cheetos or Doritos?
Yeah. So I've seen some lists online. If you need to do a question a day, super random, you know, do you like X or, you know, Y? Do you like Marvel or what's the other one? I don't even remember. I'm not a superhero person, but you know, you do like this or that. It's just a way to get them engaged instead of just asking, are you here? Okay. All right, so let's see, differentiation. If you're not aware of this, again, tiny arrow to the rescue. When you are assigning work, if you click on the tiny arrow for the assignment, the material, the question post, the stream announcement, you can assign it just to certain students. So for example, if you have students that are absent and you don't want them to see something, you can uncheck their names and then recheck their names later, and it will then provide them access. If you have special ed students who are only supposed to do certain assignments, you might uncheck their names from that assignment so that they don't see it and get confused. If you have English learners and you're giving them a different variation of the assignment, you might click on that, remove their names, and assign it to them separately. So there's different ways to use that. If you are trying to share information with just a few students, you might also use that on the stream to post a message just to certain students. I would still start that message with their names, you know, Johnny, tell me about blah, 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 because otherwise it looks the same to students. They see everything on their stream and it doesn't tell them you only sent it to them. So you might need some clarification. I know that I've had parents think, oh, well, everybody saw that message, when only the students that it is assigned to will see that message. The shortcuts that are available on your main classes page and under the upcoming work when you are in your classroom on the stream and the classwork page, when you look at that, you can click on those assignment titles to go to the assignments correctly or directly. On assignments, there's an option for students to add links. So if they do work on some other site that's not a Google site, they can actually put the link to their work when they turn it in. They don't have to put it in a comment anymore. They can add the link as an attachment basically instead of adding from their drive. And you can add outside links to assign. So if it's something that's not within Google and you want them to go to that website, you can put the link. So if it does not directly link to Google, if you can't go to that website, sign in with Google, assign through Google, you can put the link, and then in your directions, you can explain to students what they're going to do with the website. Icons. This random thing to know will only work if you are not colorblind. So if you're colorblind, I'm sorry. But the icons that are on your classwork page, if you are a student and you turn in your work, it will gray out because you're done with the assignment. So if you have a class where you're a student, you can look at the icons to see that. And then drag and drop. You can move your topics and you can move your posts within your topics by dragging and dropping, whether you're on your phone or on your computer. You do have to wait for them to load essentially and be in the new topic, in the new spot, before you can then click and drag the next one. Right now, with distance learning and hybrid learning coming up, it will be really convenient if you are doing days or weeks or months as topics and changing things around a lot to be able to drag and drop. You can click the 3 little dots on the side, but it's an extra step to click the dots and then to click move up or move down. And when you do that, it also only moves up 1 or moves down 1. Well, if I want to drag something, you know, all the way down the page or even 4 spots down the page, I can drag and drop with 1 click. If I click on the snowman on my 3 little dots, it's multiple move up or multiple move downs to do the same thing. Okay, so getting organized with your topics, it's up to you how you organize your classroom. You've already organized it to start the year, unless you're in a district that starts after Labor Day. But you can always change it if it's not working for you and if it's not working for your students. So you could organize by the subject or concept or unit. So if you are a high school English teacher and you have a unit on different types of literature and writing, you could organize it that way. You could organize it by time periods. If you're a history teacher, if you're an elementary teacher, you could have a subject for each subject that you teach within one classroom. Another way to organize it is time-based, especially now. Easy way for students and parents to find things is organizing by the day or the week. So you have today, or you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then you have the weeks, either week 1, week 2, week 3, or the weeks with the dates like August 31st to September 4th. And then the months. One thing to note that is unfortunate, you can send feedback to Google if you wish they had this, is you can't have topics and subtopics. So if I have 4 weeks in September, I'm always going to have 4 weeks in September. I can't move those weeks into a month topic to combine them. I can move all the assignments into the month of September, but I can't keep the week headers. They're all going to be together if I do that. So you have to figure out what will work best for you and for your students. And then you can make your topics stand out with emojis or with fonts. So there are hyperlinks. So if you grab the presentation slides, those link to some emoji keyboards and font websites. So one of the things that I do is I use emojis. I previously, with in-person learning, typically did classes and concepts for my Google Classroom organization. I found that doing days and weeks was a lot easier for my students and parents to navigate when they were at home, and I stuck with that this year. So I have Monday through Friday topics, and I'm using the color-coded circles. So each day has a color-coded circle in front of it to make it really easy. And for your non-readers, that would be a way for them to easily be able to identify what day you are going to. So for color coding, there are circles, there are squares, and there are hearts that are different colors that you could use. There's also all sorts of other emojis if you want to be subject specific, you know, the pencil and the book, the computer, the globe, different types of things. There's little beakers for science. So you could use emojis that are subject specific also. And the fonts, you can't change the fonts within Google Classroom, but these are fonts where you type in your words and then you can copy paste the words from the different font options that the sites have. And when you paste them, it will look the same. It'll copy that new font for you, but you can't change the font like in a Google Doc, for example. Any questions right now, Heather?
I don't see any questions.
Okay.
It was DC and Marvel.
Okay, thank you.
And then Rita was saying color coding is a great tip. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So for creating your assignments, more details about that. Another one is emojis and fonts. So for the titles of your assignments, you could use emojis or fonts. My caveat for this is if you are a district that has the option to import your grades directly to whatever your student information system is, do not use cute emojis and fonts in your assignment titles because they add a zillion little coded characters and they'll be too long for you to import. The example I'm going with is my district uses Illuminate. Illuminate only allows 24 characters in a assignment title. If I have a 5-digit or 5-character assignment title and I add an emoji, it's already longer than the 24 characters that are allowed. So it will make them stand out. It is helpful for your non-readers, your primary students, English learners, special ed students. And if you're not importing your grades directly, then go for it. There's nothing stopping you. But if you are importing your grades and you do that, then you'd have to go back, edit the title, remove all of that. And that's an extra step you probably don't want to take. Another thing that's super helpful is naming conventions. So figure out how you're going to name your assignments. Label them with numbers. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1.1, 1.2 if it's in a unit. You could use color-coded emojis, for example, or you could put the day and the subject as part of your assignment title. Again, if you're importing your assignments for grading purposes, if you're adding the day and subject, your assignment title gets really, really long. Another thing to keep in mind with assignment titles is I don't have the number of characters memorized, but somewhere around maybe 50 is all that you can see on the computer before you get the ... and you don't see the rest of it. So for younger students, if part of the title is missing, that gets confusing. So you want to try to make your title something that will fit without disappearing, basically.
Question in the chat. What if you add the emoji to the end of the assignment title? Will it be easier to delete into the LMS?
No, it would be the same because you would click the 3 little dots to edit the assignment, and then you would either delete the emoji at the beginning or delete the emoji at the end. If you want to take that extra step every time you assign something and then have to import the grades, go for it, I guess. But I've made it work for me. I'm not interested in taking that extra step. So I don't do them in my titles anymore. Okay. So for your assignment directions, especially because we are not in person right now, unless you are at a school that got the waiver, pretty much all of us are somewhere in Southern California, unless you joined from farther away. So we're doing online learning. Our students are only getting what they see through a screen. So add as much detail as you can without overwhelming them. For your directions, you can add audio directions or video directions with an add-on or an extension. If you save it to your drive, it's super easy to add to your assignment by clicking add and choosing your drive. And then the students can just click on it and either listen or watch you go over the directions. And they don't have to be able to read to do that. So again, primary students, English learners, special ed students, that's super helpful. Okay, and keep in mind that English learners and special ed students come in all ages. So you can teach high school and still have students that need that assistance. If the directions are super long, you might want to put them into a Google Doc instead. If it's for a project, there's multiple parts, because in a Google Doc, you can underline and italicize and bold things. You can create tables and charts and sections. So that would be a little bit challenging for younger learners, but especially for secondary teachers or for upper elementary, if you're doing a project, I would encourage you, instead of putting your directions in the directions box, create a Google Doc. That way you can add spaces and bold things and separate it out or list things, right? You can use the numbers or the bullet points. You can also do bullet points within the directions box. You just don't have an actual bullet point option, so you'd have to use the hyphen or the star or some other icon. Or you could number things 1, 2, 3, 4 within your directions box as well. All right, so communicating with parents and guardians is always important. It's even a bigger deal now since we are, a lot of us, online. So Google Classroom is limited in how you can communicate with parents. They don't have an account, they can't directly log in, but when they want to see everything, that's when you have that nice little conversation about making sure they're talking with their child, and they sit down with their child, have their child log in, and they can see anything they want to. Guardian summaries are only available if you are a G Suite school. So if you are at a private school or a charter school, perhaps, that is using Gmail and Google without G Suite, unfortunately, this is not an option for you. So you turn this on in settings. I will switch to my Google Classroom in a moment to actually show you this in my sample class. You turn this on in settings, and then in the people tab, you have to individually invite each guardian. So if you are a secondary teacher especially, and no one else in your school is using this feature, find your favorite junk television show, set up your computer in front of the TV, and start inviting all 200 parents, because it's going to take you a while. Hopefully you have an Excel spreadsheet, or you can log into Illuminate or Aries or whatever you use to copy paste, and you don't have to manually type each one in, but it will take you a little bit of time, unfortunately. It sends them an email to invite them. It's automated. So keep in mind, you might need to remind parents that that email may go to their junk or their spam folders, and they have to accept it. So once you've added them, you'll see invited in parentheses after their name. If it says that, they have not set it up. So that's very important. They're not getting anything unless they've set it up themselves. They can choose to get daily or weekly summary emails. Okay. And in that summary email, they see a list of assignments. They see the titles and the descriptions. There's no work attachments. There's no grades. And then the biggest caveat here is, if you are not using the Guardian summaries, do not delete the email addresses, because it is connected within your domain. If you delete little Johnny's email address, and he is also in 6 other high school classes, you've deleted his email address from all those classes also. And some teacher input his email because they wanted to use the summaries. If you have your Guardian summaries off, it's not sending them, okay? One of the things that is unfortunate is when you invite parents and they get that invite invitation, they are able to decline it. And I have had parents do that before. So just know it's not perfect. They can say no, but hopefully if you invite them and take the time and you talk about it in your class to your students, so that they can share with their parents, and you talk about it in back to school night, or your principal mentions it, the parents will realize that it is a valuable tool to know what's going on. Okay, the other way to communicate with parents is sending an email. So this goes through the student's name. So you can click on them in the people tab under the student section, or from the grades tab. It goes to that student's summary page of their work. And then there's an email icon in the top right, and you can check to include the work summary. And that will then list all their assignments with their grades or their status if they're missing or assigned because the due date hasn't happened yet. And then you can choose to send it to the student only if the students have email access. If your students have email turned off, you can't send it to the student. You can check to send it to the guardian. That only works if the guardian has accepted the Guardian summaries. Otherwise, it won't work. You can't send it to them. Or you can send it to both the student and the guardian. So that would be more likely for secondary, probably, where you're keeping the students in the loop and reminding them. But you can also send an email this way without including the work summary. You just click on that email icon, and you can type a message without including the work summary. I'm going to go ahead and switch to my classroom so you can see these options.
Real quick, do you get a notification that the parent declined the invite?
You do, yes. And you'll see it disappear. Okay, so here's my sample class. So you click on the settings in the top right corner. You scroll down under general. Okay, you have guardian summaries. The automatic setting is that they are turned off. You have to turn them on. So you turn them on and it will ask you, do you want to add your class? If you have multiple classes, you can automatically add all the classes without having to go to the settings for each individual class. If you only want them on for one class, then you would uncheck that. So I want them on for all my classes. I'm going to click add class and save my settings. And once it finishes, you go to your people tab. Okay, and for my imaginary coworker students in this class, I would click invite guardians. Okay, and then I can invite guardians. So I could invite myself just as an example. I click invite, it's going to send me an email automatically. Okay, if I accept that email, I'll do that really quick so you can see it change. Okay, it will change from invited and that will remove. Okay, if you have a student that has multiple parents that want the summaries, you can click on the dots here and you can invite more guardians. So you can add another guardian if you want to. Okay, so my email is loading slowly right now. Let's see if it loads. Okay. All right, let's see. Okay, so I'll come back to that in a moment. Hopefully it will load and I can show you what it looks like. So you click on a student name from your people tab or from the grades tab. So this was the people tab. I clicked on her name here. If you're in the grades tab, you can also click on their name and it goes to the same page. So the email icon is up here. You click on it and you can send them a message. So right now it only says student. That's because I don't have a guardian set up for her yet. If I get the email, which I just got, and accept it, okay, then I can update this and I'll have a guardian option. So I've accepted it. So let's see if it changes. We'll see how quickly Google processes it. Not that quickly. All right, so it hasn't processed it yet, so I might not be able to show you what it really looks like. But if you have the guardian set up, you'll get a little drop down arrow here. It'll say student, guardian, or student and guardian. You can type a message right here. If you want to do this for every single student, unfortunately, there's not a batch way to do this. You do have to do it one student at a time. If you have the same message you're sending, hi, please take a look at your student's work summary, blah, 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 copy and paste it. But that's the only shortcut there is. If you want to include the summary, you click to include the summary. And then once you've typed something, or once you've clicked to include the summary, you can send it to them. The one caveat for this to keep in mind is that there's no record of this because they're sent from an automated Google Classroom email address. So the only way to have a record of this is if you add yourself as a guardian to every single student so that you would get those emails also. But that's a lot of emails. And also the parents, when they get the guardian invitation, would be able to see that you're listed as a guardian and click to remove you and say you're not the guardian. So it wouldn't necessarily work. Okay, any questions about that now that we've seen it in person or in Google Classroom?
Not seeing any in the chat.
All right. Okay, so grading and feedback. Okay, if you have a district that syncs to the SIS, you can do that and it's super easy. If you don't, you have a couple options. You can view the grades in the grades tab. You can also view your grades in Google Sheets and there's a CSV download option. So you can download it as an Excel doc and then upload Excel to your data site, your grade program, if it allows you to upload Excel, and maybe that would save you from typing it all in. If neither of those options works and you have to type in everything twice, I'm sorry, but at least it is saved for you there. Okay. One option, if you don't have an easy way to do it, is that you give feedback in Google Classroom, but you don't post the grades except in whatever data program that you do use. That way you don't have to do it twice.
There is a question here, MaryAlison. Do you know of a way to organize the turned in assignments?
Nope. They are there in the order you've posted them in your grades tab, and you cannot move them, and it's very annoying. Send feedback to Google. Okay, that little question mark in the corner, send them feedback. Maybe they'll listen to one of us. Okay.
Can we have
Go ahead.
Can we have only select Google Classroom assignments sync to SIS?
So it's not automatic. So like, for example, I have Illuminate. I have to log into Illuminate. I have to go to my Illuminate gradebook, and I have to click to import each assignment individually. I'm not personally familiar with others. I know that Infinite Campus is one of the ones that has a syncing option, but it's still in beta and only some programs do that yet. So I'm pretty sure, though, that you have to do it one by one. I've also heard that there are extensions for some programs like Power School that will allow you to do it also, but you'll have to do a little bit of investigating for that. If you're assigning stuff, for example, in docs or slides, there is a comment bank option, so that instead of typing everything a zillion times, things that you say a lot, you can save in your comment bank and just click to add as a comment for that assignment. Okay, we don't have enough time to go over all the details of the comment bank, but if you have the presentation, this is a hyperlink to the Google support page that explains it. It is a very handy tool, especially if you are like an English teacher that's grading a lot of writing, to be able to give them feedback that way. You can create rubrics, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Grading, in the settings in the top right corner, you can choose what grading options you have. So you can see all the grades, you can see the average, you can click on a student like I showed you earlier to see their work summary, and input grades that will show up in the grades tab. Important reminder that you have to click on the assignment, click the return button, or they cannot see their grade. In grading settings, you can also choose if you use total points or if you want to weight different categories, and you can choose if you show that to students also. Private comments are an option on assignments, but not on materials. There is an option on question posts also. So it's individual feedback. If you have email access for students and you use the @ or the plus sign, it'll send them an email notification. I always start my comments with my initials to stand out. So when I'm looking at the assignment and I'm looking at that list of names, if I see my initial, I know that I'm the last one that commented. If I see anything else, I know I need to respond to a student right away. You can copy paste from an emoji keyboard to stand out and build rapport. You're on fire, smiley face, things like that. You can also use voice comments if you want to do less typing, or if you have students that are not readers, or you just want them to hear your voice because we're far away right now. When students submit work, it becomes view only. So if you have students that are submitting things early and then they're wondering, why can't I edit this? And they're asking you for permission, they can click the unsubmit button. You don't have to return it. Okay, they can click unsubmit and then they have access again. So if students turn in their work and you want to give it back to them to have them edit it, or it's done and you want them to see their feedback, make sure you let them know. If there's no grade, tell them why. Tell them what they need to change. Otherwise, they're wondering why you're giving it back, and you'll start playing Google Classroom ping pong. You can give fast feedback. When you return stuff, you can give the same comment to everyone. If they're all done, you know, great job, thanks for finishing this, and they think it's just for them, which is great. And you'll have some students who respond to that. You can also copy and paste the same comment to the students who haven't finished to remind them when it's due. Unfortunately, that's not quite as speedy, but it is a way to communicate with them individually. If you use Google Forms, the responses are not in Google Classroom. That's one of the questions I've seen the most. Where's the work? Where's the assignment? It's not there. You have to view it in Google Forms. Okay, you can import grades for Google Forms, but only if there's nothing else attached. So if you attach like a Google Doc for them to read, for example, you can't import the grades unless you return that. I mean, unless you remove that. Okay. If you have 4 students who are absent and didn't do it, you have to click to import the grades again. It doesn't auto update. Okay. So adding grades, we're digital, we're doing pretty much everything online. If you're hybrid, you're going to be doing most things online still too. And so keep in mind that some grades will directly add to Google Classroom, but some sites don't connect as well. You can still manually put the grades in there if you want all your grades in the same place. You just have to have 2 tabs up and copy them in. Okay, rubrics. So this is fun. I didn't delete that part. I'll delete that in a minute.
That happens.
So that's from the Google support page, but it's sort of gibberish. But you can have 50 criteria. I don't think any of us want 50 criteria for one assignment because we would go crazy grading it and our students would wonder what the heck we were doing. But you can share them and you can reuse them. So if you create one once, you can use it on other assignments, which is great for things that are similar at the elementary level, or if you have 4 periods of biology 9 and you want to use the same rubric for everybody, super helpful. Originality reports, that's like a Turnitin style checker. If you have basic in your district, the limit is 3. They announced in August that the limit will soon be 5, but I haven't heard anybody say it's changed yet. If you have enterprise, it is unlimited. It compares their work to the internet, not other student work, but they have said soon it will compare to other student work in your domain. Unfortunately, not to their friends in a neighboring district, but at least within your domain, so within your district. But again, that also does not exist yet. Soon, they said around a month, but you never know with Google. Okay, this is a list you can look at later, handy dandy extensions and add-ons for different things. Then Google tips for digital learning, I'll let you read that later just because I want to be able to answer any questions at the end that we have. So anybody have any questions they want to ask before we wrap up? Anything you want me to go back over?
Also, before we wrap up, I want to let everybody know that there is a midnight pedagogy at 8. So in 30 minutes to wrap up edCamp. The slide or the link is in the schedule that you've been going to the Zooms. And if you do have a question, feel free to unmute. There are no questions in the chat.
No. Well, hopefully that wasn't too much information. I know if you are new to using Google Classroom or blended learning, digital learning, virtual learning, whatever you want to call it these days, it is a lot to take in. But if you save the presentation slides, then you can go back to them on your own later. Okay, let's see. Anything else? Is there a way to have assignments only go to folder and not drive? The folders within your drive, so no. Okay, and keep in mind that your shared with me is like a digital junk drawer. Pretend it's not there. Don't look at it. Only go through the link in Google Classroom, because if you decide you're going to delete something and you're shared with me, it just repopulates when the student opens it again. So you can't do anything. You can't organize it. It's like your junk drawer. Okay. All right. So you're welcome. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have questions later, feel free to reach out, and hopefully you can do something nice for yourself for the rest of this evening. It's almost Labor Day weekend.
MaryAlison, thank you so much. We are so appreciative of you and all the information that you gave us. Thank you. And we hope to see you guys all at Midnight Pedagogy in about 30 minutes.